Okay, we've talked about reinforcers and punishments, but now the question is, when do you reward and when do you punish? It turns out that the timing of rewards and punishments has a huge impact on our behavior. So let's start first with continuous reinforcement. Every time someone does what you want, you reinforce them, you reward them. So every time, let's say you want your child to become an artist, you think, okay, every time my child draws a picture, I'll reward them with a cookie. That's continuous reinforcement, and continuous reinforcement helps us to learn things quickly, but what we learn, so for example, teaching your child that you value their artwork, what we learn doesn't last very long. The more powerful timetable for rewards is partial or intermediate rewards. You don't reward every time. You reward every few times. So instead of giving your child a reward every time they paint a picture that you like, you reward them some of the time and not other times. Now, the learning here is slower, but it lasts longer. What you see teachers do is start off with continuous reinforcement. They might reward their students every single time they get something right, and then they shift to intermittent reinforcement schedules. They reward the student only occasionally because occasional rewarding makes that behavior last longer. Now, if you're going to do a intermittent reinforcement or just reinforcing some of the time, then the question is, okay, what does that mean some of the time? How often? Well, you could do a fixed ratio schedule, and yes, students, you're going to need to know this. A fixed ratio schedule is when you reward somebody every 5th time that they do something or every 10th time that they do something. Examples would be piecework. Maybe you get rewarded for every 100 shirts that you sew. Okay? But what does Vegas do, baby? The charmer. Variable ratio reinforcement. If you knew that a slot machine was going to give you a jackpot every 10 times you played the game, it'd be boring, right? It's like, oh, I just need to do this 10 times and whoo, there's my jackpot. It's gotta be unpredictable. That's what glues us in. The unpredictability of the reward. Works like magic. Works so well that Las Vegas makes a lot of money from variable ratio schedule. And what that means is you every so often, in terms of the number of behaviors, then you reward. So it's not time-based. It's not that somebody spends half an hour at a slot machine. How long you're at the machine doesn't matter. What matters is how many times you electronically pull a lever or play a game. Now, variable ratio reinforcement produces the highest rate of responses. In other words, it catches us. It's the best way to grab us. We are most likely to plug into things that have variable ratio schedules. Now, it's not just Vegas that knows this. The smart people in Silicon Valley know that variable ratio reinforcement works. And so, how is social media arranged? How is your cell phone set up to take advantage of intermittent reinforcement? So, social media. I know it's hard to think of your cell phone or your social media account as being just like going to Vegas, but your brain doesn't know the difference. It's the same thing. Every time you look at your phone, you might get a like, right? You might receive some positive reinforcement. A friend tells you they're thinking of you, or a post of yours gets another like. It keeps us coming back, right? So I could look at my phone 10 times and nothing could happen, and then on the 11th time, ooh, I got a like. That is variable ratio reinforcement, and our brains love it. When you don't know when the reinforcement is coming, it's like an addiction. It actually increases dopamine release in our brains in the same way that addiction to caffeine and nicotine and other drugs occurs. So what social media does is they offer you little treats, little rewards every once in a while, because they know that works very well. And what you get in return is that the social media companies take all of your data and sell it to other companies so that they can sell you stuff. So you're literally selling your soul to get those little likes, those little treats. In Canvas, there are 2 fantastic talks about social media and operant conditioning, and we're going to use those in our labs. I talked about continuous and intermittent reinforcement, and that both of those terms describe reinforcement that occurs as a function of how often a person does something. But you can also reinforce people based just on time, okay? You could reinforce someone every 5 minutes or every hour. I get reinforced by the University of California once a month. They send me a check. That's my reinforcement, right? The funny thing is with fixed interval reinforcement is that people work really hard right before they know that a reward is coming. So people work harder on the day before they're going to get paid than on the day after. You can also reward people intermittently based on timing, and that can be deeply satisfying to people too. Fishing is a great example. You have to actually put your hook in the water, that's true. But how long do you fish before you catch a fish? That's timing, right? Variable interval schedules like that produce sort of a slow, steady response, right? Nothing too earth-shattering, slow and steady. It works. That's the end of this mini lecture. We're going to switch gears dramatically in the next mini lecture. So we're done with operant conditioning. Now we're going to switch to a different kind of learning called observational learning. Come right back.